Count one of the verdict reads, we the jury find the defendant guilty of second-degree murder as included in count one. Signed by the foreperson of the jury. Mr. Murphy, is that your verdict? Mr. Aldridge, is that your verdict? Ms. Foster, is that your verdict?
Yes.
McDavid, defendant. Case number SCN 363925, DA number OCD 980. Verdict. We, the jury, in the above entitled cause, find the defendant, Weldon K. McDavid, guilty of the crime of conspiracy to commit murder.
Ms. Lane is to be sentenced to a sentence the court finds, having considered the mitigating circumstances and the aggravating circumstances, that totals 100 years in the Department of Corrections, to be followed by the mandatory periods of parole.
Yo! Everybody won't get like that! Get on!
Taylor Schabusiness's case is a pretty gruesome one. It all started in February 2022 in Green Bay, Wisconsin. She was accused of killing her friend, Shad Therian, during a drug-fueled sexual encounter. But it gets worse. She allegedly dismembered his body and scattered the parts around.
Put your hands behind your back, quick. Anybody else in your partner? You got blood on your hands here, blood on. No, on your hands. Okay, yeah, we're gonna have to. What apartment is this? What apartment are you in? Okay, Adam, please come up. He's got some here, get out here. On the double. Which apartment?
The police found Therian's head in a bucket at his mother's house. When they caught up with Schabusiness, they found more body parts in her van. She was charged with first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, and sexual assault. Fast forward to February 14, 2023. Schabusiness was in court for a competency hearing. Her lawyer, Quinn Jolly, asked the judge to delay the trial, saying they needed more time to prepare. The judge agreed to push it back 2 months. That's when things went crazy. Schabusiness suddenly lunged at her own lawyer, Jolly. She tackled him and they both went down. A deputy quickly jumped in to restrain her.
Responsible for that, and this is the ending of a process that is doing just that. At the same time, I'm absolutely convinced that, irrespective of the sentence that Ms. Schabusiness gets, which in light of these charges is going to be a life sentence.
After this outburst, Schabusiness was removed from the courtroom. However, the judge decided to proceed with jury selection anyway.
Versus Weldon K. McDavid, defendant. Case number SCN 363925, DA number OCD 980. Verdict. We, the jury, in the above entitled cause, find the defendant, Weldon K. McDavid, guilty of the crime of conspiracy to commit murder.
In 2016, Diana was going through a divorce from her husband, Greg Mulvihill. But instead of battling it out in court like most, Diana decided to take things to another level. She devises a crazy plan to get rid of her ex for good. Diana contacts her gun instructor, Weldon McDavid Jr., and convinces him to help her, lure Greg to a dark, secluded road and take him out.
A somber and humble Diana Lovejoy is led into court in shackles.
Doesn't that smell nice?
The Real Housewife of Carlsbad, California, charged with plotting to murder her estranged husband, Greg Mulvihill, and hiring shooting instructor and former Marine.
On September 1st, 2016, Greg got a call. The guy on the phone claimed dirt on Diana and told Greg to meet him on this remote road in Carlsbad, California. Greg, probably thinking he was about to get some juicy info for his divorce case, took the bait.
Jason Kovac at his side.
But here's where things go south. Greg and his friend peered at this pole where the evidence was supposed to be, but a shot rang out. Greg got hit in the side but managed to survive. The cops weren't dumb. They started digging, and they found a trail leading right back to Diana and Weldon. It turns out that Weldon was the shooter, and Diana was the mastermind behind it all. Fast forward to the trial, and things get intense. The prosecution presents all the evidence, the planning, the gun, the whole 9 yards. Diana and Weldon claim they're innocent, but the jury isn't buying it.
Next. This suddenly happens when the jury returns to deliver its verdict.
Then comes the moment of truth. The verdict was read, and Diana just crumpled to the floor. It's like all the air got sucked out of her when she realized she was going away for a long, long time. In the end, Diana got slapped with 26 years to life, while Weldon got 50 years to life.
You stab until he was dead. You didn't think he was an intruder. You know, maybe one stab wound, okay, maybe that's self-defense. But you put in 11 more to make sure he was good and dead. So I hope, I agree with the family, I hope you die in prison as well. You know, and if this was a death penalty state...
Camia Gamut's case shocked many when the full details of her crime came to light. On April 16, 2014, Judge John McBain sentenced Gamut to life in prison without the possibility for the brutal murder of her boyfriend, Marcel Hill. Gamut and Hill had a volatile on and off relationship filled with arguments and tension. However, no one expected it to end in such a gruesome manner. Gamut snapped on May 18, 2012. During one of their many heated arguments, she attacked Hill in their shared apartment, using whatever she could find to inflict pain. Armed with a lamp, a frying pan, and a knife, she repeatedly struck and stabbed Hill, ultimately leading to his death.
The way I was portrayed, mostly everything was lies. There was a little bit of truth, but mostly I was convicted off of lies.
What made the case even more disturbing was Gamut's behavior in court. Throughout the trial, she showed little to no remorse for her actions. She often appeared indifferent, even smirking and rolling her eyes during the proceedings. This behavior did not go unnoticed by Judge McBain, who, during the sentencing, expressed his disgust and outrage. He clarified that her lack of remorse was as disturbing as the crime. Judge McBain didn't hold back during the sentencing. He condemned Gamut for the brutality of her actions, stating that it was one of the worst cases he had ever seen.
Count one of the verdict to read, the jury by the defendant guilty of second-degree murder as included in count one. Signed by the foreperson of the jury. Mr. Murphy, is that your verdict? Mr. Aldridge, is that your verdict? Ms. Foster, is that your verdict?
Yes.
In 2017, Shelby Isaac, then just 19 years old, was convicted of first-degree murder for a crime that shocked the Memphis community. Isaac's crime was driven by greed and jealousy. She wanted a new hairstyle and was desperate to get the money for it. On January 22, 2016, Isaac arranged to meet with Edwina Thomas, a 33-year-old woman who was 8 months pregnant, to buy bundles of hair extensions. However, Isaac had no intention of paying. Instead, she planned to rob Thomas. The meeting took place in broad daylight in the parking lot of an apartment complex. Isaac brought a gun, and when the situation escalated, she shot Edwina Thomas and her boyfriend, Eddie E.J. Tate Jr., who was there with her. The shooting was fatal for both Thomas and Tate. Tragically, Thomas's unborn child also died as a result of the shooting.
The law says this has to be read into the record. I just can't give you a copy of it. Let the attorneys start their closing arguments and refer to the pages. I'm not sure exactly why that has to be read into the record. I guess so they're sure that everyone has heard it at least once, okay? I guess we might go back to a time when people really weren't very good at reading. I don't know. But anyway, so it has to be read into the record. It takes about 35 to 40 minutes to read it into the record. So I may take a water break every now and then to see if my voice will hang up and it'll hold up. Now,
the brutality of the crime was shocking, but what made it even more disturbing was Isaac's behavior during her trial.
Is that your verdict, ma'am? Is that your verdict, ma'am? Sir, is that your verdict? Ma'am, is that your verdict? And is that your verdict? And is that your verdict, ma'am?
She showed little emotion, and when she was ultimately found guilty of the murders, she broke down, not because of remorse, but because of the reality of her situation sinking in. She cried uncontrollably, but it was clear that the tears were for herself, not for the lives she had taken.
Ms. Lane is to be sentenced to a sentence the court finds, having considered the mitigating circumstances and the aggravating circumstances, that totals 100 years in the Department of Corrections, to be followed by the mandatory periods of parole.
Lane, a 36-year-old woman from Colorado, committed a horrifying crime. For months, Lane faked a pregnancy, convincing everyone around her, including her boyfriend, that she was expecting a child. But when her boyfriend grew suspicious, Lane took brutal action.
Like all expectant mothers, Michelle was glowing in anticipation of meeting her daughter Aurora. Michelle, close to the big day, answers a Craigslist ad for baby clothes, but that decision would prove to be the worst of her life. Michelle arrived at the house of this woman, Donnell Lane. They talked for a while, but right before Michelle left, Lane attacked her, smashing a lava lamp over her head.
On March 18, 2015, Lane lured Michelle Wilkins, a pregnant woman who was 8 months along, to her home under the camouflage of selling maternity clothes. Thinking she was meeting a fellow expectant mother, Wilkins had no idea of the horror that awaited her.
She got me in my stomach. I'm afraid she cut you in your stomach. Come on, I'm pregnant.
It took just over 6 minutes for help to arrive.
Hang on. Hold on. Please, I'm downstairs.
Once Wilkins was inside, Lane attacked her with a kitchen knife. In a gruesome and calculated move, Lane cut the fetus from Wilkins's womb. Wilkins was left bleeding and fighting for her life. Miraculously, she managed to call 911 and was rescued in time. However, the baby did not survive.
Michelle clings to life, and incredibly, she survives.
Lane's motive was clear. She wanted to present the baby as her own, to keep up with her fake pregnancy. She even went so far as to bring the fetus to the hospital, claiming she had suffered a miscarriage. The truth quickly cracked, leading to her arrest.
On day 2 of testimony, jurors got a glimpse of the bloody crime scene. A mattress with deep red bloodstains, glass shards from the lava lamp Lane used to smash Michelle over the head, and the 2 knives caked with blood that Lane used to cut Aurora out of Michelle's womb. Lane sat stone-faced as she was convicted of an array of charges.
During her trial, Lane's defense didn't deny that she had committed the act, but argued that it wasn't premeditated murder.
Ms. Wilkins to bleed out and die. Ms. Lane is to be sentenced to a sentence the court finds, having considered the mitigating circumstances and the aggravating circumstances, that totals 100 years in the Department of Corrections, to be followed by the mandatory periods of parole.
In February 2016, Lane was convicted of attempted murder, unlawful termination of a pregnancy, and assault. She was sentenced to 100 years in prison, receiving the maximum penalty for her crimes. The judge, Maria Birkenkotter, emphasized the cruelty and severity of the attack in her sentencing.
You! Everybody want to know? Yes, I did kill her!
In a lightning bolt of emotion, Michelle Blair admits to killing her 13-year-old daughter, Stony Blair.
In March 2015, authorities in Detroit made a horrifying discovery when they found the bodies of Blair's 2 children, Stony Blair and Stephen Barry, in a deep freezer in her apartment.
Stephen Barry, because they were harming her youngest son since he was in diapers. She said she asked the kids more questions and then, quote, "I went back upstairs and started punching Stephen till he said he would tell the truth. How long has Stephen been in the freezer? I want to say 2 years. How long has Stony been in the freezer? About 1 year. She died May 25th, but I don't remember the year. It's a blur. When did Stephen die? August 30th. maybe 2012. In court last week, Blair said Stoney had been harming her youngest son.
The children had been dead for years, hidden away, while their mother continued to live in the same home with her 2 surviving children. Blair, a mother of 4, confessed to killing her 13-year-old daughter Stoney and 9-year-old son Stephen. She claimed she did it because they had been abusing her youngest son, a claim that was never substantiated.
One of your children?
No, I didn't tell her to lift the body.
Can you imagine?
You're talking about
you want to talk about your surviving children, though, Michelle? You didn't ever consider turning yourself in?
If my son told me that he did not want me to go after what happened with Stephen, after I killed Sonny, you really think I was about to turn myself in because of her? Hell no. No.
Blair admitted to torturing and brutally killing her children. She beat them, burned them with scalding water, and ultimately took their lives, all while her other children watched or were aware of what was happening. Blair showed no remorse during her court appearances. She had several outbursts, including one during a custody hearing, where she screamed at the father of her surviving children, blaming him for not being there to protect them. She openly admitted to her crimes, saying she would do it again if she had to, and expressed no regret for her actions.
As a mother, one of your primary responsibilities was to protect your kids. And in that respect, you failed in the worst possible way. There's nothing that can be done at this point to change what happened.
True, that's why I'm asking for life.
I know.
The court proceedings were filled with shocking details about the abuse and torture Blair inflicted on her children. Despite her outbursts and erratic behavior, Blair was found competent to stand trial. She pleaded guilty to the murders and was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of relief.
Candelario said she's asked for forgiveness.
I'm not trying to justify my actions.
Pero nadie sabe cuánto yo estaba sufriendo.
But nobody knew how much I was suffering.
Dios y mi hija me han perdonado.
God and my daughter have forgiven me.
Crystal Candelario, a 32-year-old mother from Cleveland, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of the death of her 16-month-old daughter. In June 2023, Candelario left her young daughter, Jaylyn, home alone for 10 days while she went on vacation. During this time, the toddler had no access to food, water, or care. When Candelario returned, she found Jaylyn unresponsive. The child had died from severe dehydration and malnutrition, a heartbreaking outcome of Candelario's reckless and selfish actions.
Her condition so severe that it rendered first responders speechless and brought hardened detectives to tears. As the investigation unfolded, it laid bare an even more shocking reality: the chain of events that led to such appalling neglect. In this video, we will examine the details of the Candelario case and confront the harrowing question that haunts everyone touched by this case. How and why could such a vulnerable child fall victim to what a judge has described as the ultimate betrayal?
Authorities were horrified by the details of the case. Jaylyn had been left in filthy conditions, with no adult supervision or means to care for herself. Candelario's decision to leave her child alone for such an extended period was not only neglectful, but also fatal.
Sorry. Hay mucho dolor que tengo con respecto a la pérdida de mi bebé Jackie.
There's so much pain that I have in regards to the loss of my baby, Kayleen.
Estoy muy dolida por todo lo que pasó.
I'm extremely hurt about everything that happened.
No estoy tratando de justificar mis actos,
I am not trying to justify my actions.
pero nadie sabe cuánto yo estaba sufriendo.
But nobody knew how much I was suffering
Y por lo que estaba pasando.
and what I was going through.
Todos los días le pido perdón a Dios y a mi hija, Yailin.
Every day I ask forgiveness from God and from my daughter, Jaylene.
Soy una persona creyente de Dios
I'm a person who believes in God.
y reconozco hoy que todos y todas, muchas ocasiones, somos tentados por el enemigo.
And I recognize today that all of us are sometimes.
During her trial, the court heard how she prioritized her vacation over the well-being of her daughter, a choice that ultimately led to Jalen's tragic death. The prosecution argued that Candelario's behavior was nothing short of monstrous, and the jury agreed. Judge Brendan J. Sheehan delivered a powerful message at her sentencing by handing down the maximum penalty. And there you have it all.
No, don't close the door. What's going on? What's going on?
With what?
You Shay?
I am Shay.
Right. I had some kind of strange, interesting call about somebody having had their throat slit.
Okay.
So what's going on here?
That's
dog, is it?
my dog, yeah.
Hello. You're under
I
arrest on suspicion
I
of
know.
murder. You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention when questioned something which you later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given evidence. The necessity for your arrest is for a prompt and effective investigation. Okay.
This was sentencing day for the woman accused of killing her sister and 5 other people in a wrong-way drunk driving crash. Olivia Culbreth slammed head-on into another car on the 60 freeway in Diamond Bar.
Yes, she was the sole survivor. CBS 2's Dave Lopez was in court for Culbreth's sentencing, and he joins us live from downtown LA. Dave?
Well, Pat, behind me you can see the lights of the courthouse where all of this drama played out. 30 years for taking 6 lives. A nightmare that has gone on now for more than 4 years.
They walked in as I was crying, and I told them, they're dead. They're all dead.
Through tears, Mary Mejia addressed the court today, never once looking at Olivia Culbreth, the woman who more than 4 years ago killed Miss Mejia's mother, father, sister, and grandmother.
I saw the window shattered with my grandmother's wheelchair in the back.
It was a horrific scene, westbound 60 freeway in Diamond Bar. 4:45 a.m., February 9th, 2014. Ms. Culbreth, who was drunk at the time, was driving 100 miles an hour the wrong way before smashing head-on into the SUV occupied by the Mejia family.
I felt like my heart was ripped out of my chest and burned.
The 2 people in the car with Ms. Culbreth, her best friend and her older sister, died at the scene. Ms. Culbreth, who's confined to a wheelchair now, was the only one who survived the impact.
No words can convey how my heart feels.
Ms. Culbreth is 25. The drunk driving accident occurred 11 days after she had given birth to a baby boy. 3 hours after the accident, her blood alcohol level was 0.15, nearly double the legal limit.
I was wrong. I was so wrong.
When she was 16, she was arrested for drunk driving after causing a collision where no one was hurt. Her license was suspended for almost 5 years. She had her license for less than a month. Then came the wrong-way collision.
He always asks when she's coming home. He jumps up on the little shelf and tries to move the glass.
The mother of Olivia Culbreth describing the reaction of her son when he's taken to visit his mom in jail. Ms. Culbreth received a term of 30 years. She must serve 25 years before being eligible for parole. Her son will be 29 years old then. After court, when asked if the term was long enough and sufficient, Mary Mejia, who lost her mom, dad, sister, and grandma, didn't answer. Miss Mejia also told the court that there were times when she didn't think she could go on with life in any way, shape, or form. And then she said she realized she had to for the family that she had left. Reporting live from downtown Los Angeles, Dave Lopez, CBS 2 News.
These cases show the darkest side of humanity, leaving us with more questions than answers. From shocking courtroom outbursts to chilling